Hey guys, today I've got a really simple upgrade that makes a big improvement to your bike no matter which one you have, but especially on the 2013 and up Yamaha FJR 1300s. The reason is, previous generations had two horns, 13 and up, the third generation, only has one. So they cut the sound level and the quality in half. That makes a huge difference to me personally for safety, being heard. Sometimes it's very important. So what I'm doing is installing this particular dual horn setup. These come in a variety of brands, types of horns. You can YouTube and Google for different ones to see which kind of sound you like. In a previous video I'd mentioned I got the Stable Nautilus. I was mistaken, that was just on my mind. That was one of the ones I was considering. They make a very similar kit, same size, same wiring setup and everything. That is more of a car honk sound, and these are more in the direction of the trumpet sound, and that's what I was going for. The actual nice big air horn trumpets simply don't fit on the bike. So what I suggest is you get one of these specific compact or sport or slimline kits. They really do make a size difference, and they allow them to bolt directly in place of the stock horn. Now, as far as mounting them, in this particular bike, it's a simple bolt on. There's one bolt I'm going to remove to take out the stock horn, another bolt over here in the previous second horn spot that I'm going to take out. They're going to mount right into these stock brackets. I have some wiring adapters that I'm simply going to adjust a little bit and plug right in, and we're good to go. You can, of course, use a separate power line and relay. Some people will say it's absolutely necessary, but there are many people running this particular kit and others on this particular bike with the stock wiring, and there's absolutely no problem been reported. That being said, am I going to hammer on this horn for 10 or 15 seconds like a stupid 5-year-old? No, I'm not. I'm going to do quick, normal honks like I would with the stock horn. So I'm not worried about my wiring. But if you are, by all means, feel free to use your own wiring kit and put in a separate relay and power back to the battery if you want that peace of mind. So this video is going to show you how to do it with the stock wiring like many other people are running. If you want to do the relay, there are other videos out there that you can watch for that. So this particular kit has two horns, a 500 hertz and a 400 hertz. So it's a dual tone, gives you a little bit of a more harmonious trumpet sound. Does make a big difference to me personally. They do also have this in just a single 500 hertz one horn kit. It's only a few bucks less. My advice is, even if you are currently only planning on using the one horn, spend the few extra bucks. And literally, it's like an $8 or $9 difference to get the second horn, which you can't buy separately, by the way. If you want to add the 400 later, you got to buy the dual kit, because this only comes in the single as a 500 hertz. They also give you some wiring. So it really does make a big difference as far as that little extra to get the whole kit, even if you think you're only going to use this right now. You can use this later for something else. Put it in your car. Maybe you want to add it to your bike later on. Who knows? That's my only advice there. So, first thing we're going to do is take off the stock horn. Let's go ahead and do that now. Here we've got the stock horn. This is in the, if you're on the bike, the upper left corner of the radiator. You can see the one mounting bolt for it right at the top of it there. And then two just regular old spade connectors for the electricals. We are going to undo all three of those, and the horn simply comes off. Now the good thing is, on these Generation 3 bikes, even though they removed the horn from the left side, or I'm sorry, the right side if you're on the bike, they kept the cutout. So we've got all this space here, and the other mounting bolt that simply is holding the radiator on also doubles as a horn mounting bolt. So we got this nice cutout here to stick our second horn in. And our wiring is simply going to tie up neatly to go up and over like the old generations used to. There we've got our stock horn out. It's just held on by this one 4mm hex screw. And just to be clear, the radiator mounts are not the stock location mounts. It's what we're going to be using for the new horns. You can see we've got the two power wires left. Now I have to verify which one is the positive and negative, and I'm going to do that simply using a multimeter and hitting the horn switch. Okay, just verified that just like the replacement horns, The top lead there is the positive. It's a brown wire in this particular bike, and the bottom one is the negative, which is a pink wire. So here's what comes in the horn kit. You have the two horns themselves and the dual one. When you get both, they give this little bit of wire. And this is going to come in very handy because this is the perfect length. There's just a few extra inches to go up and over our radiator to mount both of these in. Now this is only if you're doing an installation like me where I'm adding another horn. If you have a previous generation or any bike with stock dual horns, you don't even need that. They simply plug right in. Same kind of connectors, two spades as the stock horns. Now there's only a couple things you need to take note of when actually installing these. One, they need to be in a particular position. They want the lettering of these up so that the opening, because it is sensitive to water ingestion and dust and dirt and everything, they want this vent pointed down as possible. So you want to mount them right side up. Because they're kind of shaped, you notice the bracket is just off center and they're kind of teardrop shaped almost. You do want to put these in a particular position. I strongly suggest, and I'm going to put this 500 tone, which is kind of shaped more towards this side, on the left if I'm sitting on the bike. So this is going to replace my stock horn. And that way this is pointing more towards the radiator than in the fairing. Gives me enough clearance. This is going to mount simply on the radiator mount bolts. You can see it just behind the wiring there. Right there. And then the other one that I'm going to add is going to go on that one right there. So all I have to do is take those bolts out, mount these up, and now I'm going to show you how I'm going to prepare my wiring, because I do have to connect these two and I don't have that second. I'm going to use the stock wiring kit, but I do need to modify it a little bit. The one end has the female spade connectors, and these go on the horns themselves, but the other end just has these crimp type blade connectors, and these aren't useful for what we're doing. So you have multiple ways of doing this. Basically we need to split the two cables, the positive and the negative. We need to split them from the stock horn and give us two additional runs going over to our new horn. There are multiple ways to split a cable. The cheapest and easiest way is to use these crimp type split connectors. I do not suggest using these. Alright, these are dubious connections at best. They really don't have very good of a guarantee of making great contact, and it's a very small surface area. You know, these horns do draw some pretty good amps, so I'm going to opt not to use these. Now, you can also get terminals that have actual Y connectors on them. So one male would go in here and it would split into two. Those are really hard to find in stores. You can mail order them if you want to go that way. Nothing wrong with doing it that way. What I'm going to do is, I got this from Radio Shack for $3. It's a female and male, not weatherproof, but weather resistant kit. You get male and female ends in it. What I'm going to do is snip off these blade connectors right at the end, because we want to preserve as much wire as possible. And I'm just going to snip myself an inch of wire. Or if you have some other wire, you can do it that way. Use your own. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't require anything special. And then what I'm going to do is simply put two wires into one end connector. And that way I will have my split coming off. I'll do that for the negative and the positive, and then we can get them mounted. So here's what I did for the wiring. I took the stock wire, snipped off the blade end, snipped off about 1.5 inches of wire, stripped both ends of that and the remaining end of this wire. To the short one, I crimped on a female end to one side, then the bare end and the other end of the main wire both go into this male end. This male plugs into the stock wiring, so absolutely nothing on the bike is touched. This little short one will plug into the 500 hertz, and the other end swings over and plugs into the 400. That's the positive. I'm going to go ahead and do the ground the exact same way. We'll just have a pair of those going over. You can see I've got the, if you're sitting on the bike, the left-hand side mounted. It's loose. I've got the bolt almost tightened down. You can see that there is some pivot. Do not
attempt to readjust that back bracket that is in a particular spot. If you need to really modify where that bracket goes, you got to fabricate your own extension to it. Do not loosen the nut on the back, and there's actually a warning on the tab that tells you that, just in case you forget. Now, as you can see, I also elected to remove the obnoxious chrome stickers, and you only see the smudge here. That's leftover glue because I got the light on the camera here, but I don't want any chrome showing. I want it nice and black, just like the stock one. So now, all you want to do is make sure this isn't touching the fairing. Just rotate it in a little bit so it'll be nice and flat like the stock horn. We'll put on our new wiring connectors and then mount the second horn and give it a test. And there we go, all buttoned up. You can see the wiring connectors there. Nothing is rubbing, nothing's touching. I didn't have to modify the stock wiring connectors at all. What I did is I clipped down the hard plastic on these particular male connectors I got from Radio Shack. You may not have to do that if you don't have the hard blue plastic around. And that's just because the stock had those really nice rubber weather resistant covers, so I kept those. Didn't want to do anything. Got the wires coming over the top here. And what I did is I used the stock grommet, which is for a wire tie, so it doesn't hurt the brake line here at all. And I just put another one in loose and looped the wires through there. They're not going anywhere, but they're not snug. These lines automatically have enough travel and everything so that turning the wheel will never stretch them. So likewise, this is nice and safe. Nothing's tight, nothing's going to rub. Got the other horn mounted over here exactly the same way. Couple tips: put in your wiring connectors before you mount this, otherwise you have no room to get your fingers in there. And if you didn't notice when taking these radiator bolts out, they are in very soft mounts. You do not torque these things down, alright? You want to tighten these down just until you can't move the horn around. That's it. It's going to be barely snug because it's going into plastic. And it's got some rubber bushings in there. I just did a function check and it works. So now what I'm going to do is give you a really good, accurate comparison. And every other video I've seen on the net is absolutely worthless because they're not using manual audio levels, so you can't get a true feel for the difference. And I'm going to show you the difference between the stock horn. I already did this test, obviously. Now I'm going to do it with these horns, and I'm also going to throw in my car horn, which is pretty much like the stock bike horn, just so you can see all three in comparison with each other. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this helps somebody. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the website, TwoWheelObsession.com. Lots of other cool stuff on there. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.